away. This will just be one night in history. But if we continue to focus on the people's agenda, and we get here and we cut the spending, we cut the debt and the deficit, we empower the small businesses as we said we would, that we support families and the communities more than we support the institutions of government, then you can begin to build off of this night going into 2012 and beyond.
Now, the AP is reporting that Rick Boucher and Tom Perriello in Virginia have gone down already. Are you surprised that Virginia is now seeming to trend back towards red, or did you see that coming all along? I mean, Boucher was an incumbent for a long time.
It was incumbent for a long time, and yeah, I mean, I think the trend lines in Virginia were there. I have to give hats off to the Democrats who sort of figured out earlier on, how to position some of their candidates to win in Virginia. But when you have to carry the water for Nancy Pelosi, and you have to vote, one way in Washington, and your rhetoric is different at home, the people figure that out. And I think you're seeing a lot of that happening around the country tonight.
What single result do you think the American people will feel literally in the next few months from the probable GOP victories here across the board?
I think probably the tenor and the tone of the conversation will change. I know the leadership will be looking to partner as much as possible with the administration to fix some of the concerns that the people have on health care, on cap and trade, on small business.
So you think Republicans will be willing to compromise then to some degree?
I don't know what the leadership is planning. What I'm saying is the tone will be different, and I think the tone is going to be much more tuned into what the people are out there have been saying over the last few months.
Mr. Seal, thank you so much for your time. Keith, back to you.
Luke Russert, thank you kindly. One of those moments where the Republicans get a scalp that they sought. We now have projection out of the Florida 8th District. The winner there is Daniel Webster, a challenging Tea Party Republican, and the loser there would be Congressman Alan Grayson. With two-thirds of the vote in, a handy victory. The House resources that were available to the Republicans were spent heavily in this district. Grayson was one of the top 5 or 10 targets, certainly among incumbent Democrats, and that one will sting for the Democratic Party. Alan Grayson, certainly one of the more upfront members during that health debate, and many others in the last 2 years.
Well, he was also considered a test case by many liberals, making the argument that Democrats made the mistake of going too far to the middle. Alan Grayson went very clearly to the left, and it didn't work in his district.
Let's bring in Republican Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee. Thank you, Congresswoman, for coming on. I love having you on Hardball, and I've got to ask you a hardball question. We're getting a difference of opinion about what should be #1 item in the Republican queue, the want list. If you can't get the Bush tax cuts made permanent in the lame duck, is that a more important priority than repealing health care? What's the most important issue you'd like to make H.R. 1?
Let's extend those tax cuts.
Let's
make
goal.
certain that's the #1 goal,
okay.
And then we have to also repeal the health care bill. You know, what we are seeing, Chris, is not a political divide in the country. It truly is a philosophical divide. And you've got those that want a smaller government. They want to see these tax cuts extended. They want the spending stopped. They want the deficit and the debt addressed. They want the environment created for jobs growth to take place. And that is government's job. You also have them wanting to see the health care bill repealed. That is a checklist that we need to get to work on day one. Now, on the other side, you do have those who think you ought to grow the size of government and increase taxes and let government run health care and everything else. So I think the philosophical divide is incredibly pronounced in this election cycle.
Well, I think you've set it up pretty well, but let me ask you the question. You're going to extend the tax cuts, it'll increase the deficit substantially. What will you offset that with? You're talking about reducing the size of government. What will you get rid of in the government to pay for the tax cuts?
Yes, amazing thing. Cut federal spending.
Yeah, what?
And every year, let me tell you how you do this. And our states have done this very successfully, and we need to learn from them. It's across-the-board spending cuts. And every year,
Social Security, Medicare, cut all those, cut defense, cut all those. You said across the board.
Discretionary across the board. You
okay, defense, Social Security,
spending.
Medicare, Medicaid. You cut everything across the board.
No, that is not what I said. That's not what I said. I said you start with discretionary spending. and you do across-the-board cuts. Our Democrat governor in Tennessee did this 8 years ago, and it has been done successfely. They have given us a model to use.
Right, okay. Discretionary spending includes defense spending. Would you cut defense across the board as well as domestic spending?
No, you do not cut defense. And
okay,
you don't
so it's
cut
not really
Homeland
across
Security.
the board because you've excluded. Now you're playing the game. No Medicare cuts, no Social Security cuts, no Medicaid cuts, no defense cuts. What are you going to cut? Because you've reduced it now to the playing field of about 8 or 9% of the federal budget you're willing to touch with what you call across-the-board cuts. In other words, nothing across the board, just a careful area.
That is step one.
Name the programs you're going to cut.
You start there. You start with all of your discretionary spending.
Name the programs.
And you do across-the-board spending cuts. Now, we've been through this before in our states.
That's why we read through it before, because we never get there. Name what we're going to cut.
And then you have an adult conversation about how to address Medicare and Social Security and the entitlements. It's amazing when you put priorities into budgets. Our states have been very successful with this.
May I ask?
It works, and that is what we are going to do. You're going to see the leadership go that direction. Make the tax reductions permanent. Cut the federal spending. The American people have spoken out tonight. As I said, it's not partisan, it's philosophical. They do not like the track this country is on, and they're ready to get the country on the right track.
Can I just ask one clarifying question, just so I understand what you were just trying to tell Chris? Do you believe that defense spending is discretionary spending?
No, I think that you have to fund the efforts of the military, and we all know that.
What does discretionary mean?
Discretionary spending is what you have in a lot of our federal programs in different departments. I'll be happy to sit down with you. As a matter of fact, when I was in the state Senate in Tennessee and then again in Congress, I did a project called Budget School. That would be a great thing to go through and do. Go through the federal budget and go through it line by line and talk about what is there, talk about what we're doing and about the priorities that are there. This election cycle, we have seen the American people more informed and more energized and more focused than ever before. It's an opportunity for us to go through an education process of how the federal government works. And I've got to tell you, I think Speaker Boehner, Leader Cantor, and a lot of new individuals that are coming to Congress are ready to take on that task and work with the American people.
Congresswoman, I have to interrupt. We're out of time because of the closings at the top of the hour. Thank you kindly, Congresswoman Blackburn of Tennessee and the Budget School. She did not indicate whether she was a student or a teacher. We'll have more closings in 13 states at the top of the hour.
The itsy bitsy spider climbed up the water spout. Down came the rain.
In turbulent times, consider the potential benefits of sector SPDR ETFs compared to common stock. They combine the diversification of mutual funds, the all-day tradability of stocks, and undiluted exposure to specific sectors of the S&P 500. Before investing, consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses. Visit sectorspiders.com for a prospectus containing this information. Read it carefully. The Energy Sector SPDR, on the web at sectorspiders.com.
The Premier Rewards Gold Card from American Express is designed to be brilliant. It's the only charge card to earn triple points on airfare, double points on gas and groceries, a single point on everything else. Points you can use for over 1 million rewards, including travel on any airline, anytime. The annual fee for the first year is on us, and you can earn 10,000 bonus points with your first purchase. Start earning brilliantly. Call 1-800-AXP-GOLD or visit AXPGold.com to apply.
Lindsey Vonn, she stays tough. Earlier, she had an all-over achy cold. What's her advantage? It's Speedy Alka-Seltzer.
Alka-Seltzer Plus. Rush's relief for all-over achy colds. The official cold medicine of the U.S. ski team. Alka-Seltzer Plus.
How can rice production in India affect wheat output in the U.S., the shipping industry in Norway, and the rubber industry in South America? At T. Rowe Price, we understand the connections of a complex global economy. It's just one reason over 75% of our mutual funds beat their 10-year Lipper average. T. Rowe Price. Invest with confidence. Request a prospectus or summary prospectus with investment objectives, risks, fees, expenses, and other information to read and consider carefully before investing.
What does it take to excel in today's business world? Our professors know because they've been there, and they work closely with business leaders to develop curriculum to meet the needs of top businesses, which means when our graduates walk in the room, they're not only prepared, they're prepared to lead. DeVry University's Keller Graduate School of Management. Learn how to grow the business of you at keller.edu.
Unlike satellite, you can count on Charter during a storm. So let it all in, rain or shine.
The Premier Rewards Gold Card from American Express is designed to be brilliant. It's the only charge card to earn triple points on airfare, double points on gas and groceries, a single point on everything else. Points you can use for over 1 million rewards, including travel on any airline, anytime. The annual fee for the first year is on us, and you can earn 10,000 bonus points with your first purchase. Start earning brilliantly. Call 1-800-AXP-GOLD or visit axpgold.com to apply.
At approximately 9 p.m. in the East, polls closed in 13 more states on this midterm 2010. NBC News can now project that the Republicans have won control of the House of Representatives. The NBC News decision desk projecting that when all the votes are counted nationwide, Republicans will hold 236 seats. The Democrats will hold 199 seats in the new House of Representatives. The margin of error there is plus or minus 13. So the margin of leadership by the House would be 37 for the Republicans, and our margin of error is a total swing of 26. So this projection is outside the total margin of error for the Republicans to take the House as expected. And here it is how it would look graphically speaking. The current margin for the Democrats, a 77-seat margin in the House, would become a Republican 37-seat margin. It could be as low as a 24-seat margin. It is still the high end of those projections about the House of Representatives now in Republican control, according to our NBC News decision desk projections. We've seen some of the particulars of this throughout the night. Alan Grayson falling in Florida as a headline, as a bold print name, and that's what it looks like to this point. Again, plus or minus 13, the total swing 26 on the margin of error, and thus that projection of a 39 point, that not 37 but 39 point here. We've got two competing numbers, either 237 198 or 236 199. It amounts to roughly the same thing. Outside the margin of error, that's the projection for the House. We'll be talking about that. Let's run the table on the other data we have for you. The North Dakota Senate first, the victory there again here for the North Dakota Republican John Hoeven. So that then brings us into the House. Some expected results. Chuck Schumer in the New York Senate. He will return easily, as will his colleague Kirsten Gillibrand, who was the Democratic incumbent as well. In the Kansas Senate race, this will be a Republican victory for Jerry Moran. In South Dakota, we are expecting that since he ran unopposed, John Thune is the winner, not the projection winner. He's it. Nobody voted against him. There wasn't anybody running against him. In Wisconsin, it is too close to call. Not too early, but too close between the incumbent Russ Feingold, for whom Democrats retain hopes, against his Republican challenger Ron Johnson. In Colorado, it is too close to call in the race between the incumbent, the appointee Senator Bennett, and his Republican challenger Mr. Buck. In Louisiana, it is too early to call in the race between the Senator Vitter and Mr. Mélenchon, the congressman and Democratic challenger there. In Pennsylvania, it is too close to call between Joe Sestak and the Republican Pat Toomey in the race for Arlen Specter's old seat. And in Illinois, it is also too close to call between Alexei Janulius and Mark Kirk. Meanwhile, the official verbiage for Missouri is it is too early to call, with 2% of the vote in, and what is seemingly a big Republican lead in that race between Roy Blunt and Robin Carnahan. The Senate pickups to this point, a +3, Arkansas, Indiana, and North Dakota. The swing there for the Republicans in the Senate. And we've already told you about the projections on the House. So this is how the House looks at this hour. I'm sorry, correction, the Senate at this hour. Republicans +3 at a 45-37 with Mr. Lieberman and Mr. Sanders counted in the independent poll. And again, what the House looks like, this is the number we're going with, 237, 198. That's what it will look like with a plus or minus margin of about 13 seats. And so we're dealing with the high end, I think, Chris, of
Very
the projections.
High, around 80 almost.
Yeah, a total swing.
It tells you that Boehner, whatever his talents as a leader, will have a relatively easy time with that. You only take 218 to get something through the House. And you have the 5-minute rule. You have a tremendous disciplinary system built in. It's not hard to run that place if you got this kind of 20-seat padding right now. So he'll be able to get through anything he wants on tax